people who listen to this radio program and are
they call The Question a Blog Talk Radio conversation with Doug Pagitt and Tony Jones. We're talking about the news items of the day and this religious question of the killing of an abortion.
Abortion comes up. I mean, I get asked when I'm interviewed by national media. Sometimes they say, "Well, it seems like younger evangelicals aren't that concerned about abortion." And they'll ask me, is that true about emergent-y kind of evangelical people under the age of 40? And I think that compared to what their parents talked about, that's right. I don't hear a lot of people under the age of 40. I don't hear the leaders of the missional emerging kind of movements. You don't, even the more conservative, Dan Kimball or Erwin McManus, even Mark Driscoll, these guys don't preach about abortion like D. James Kennedy and Jerry Falwell, and they don't. That's not the hill they're going to die on.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because of people. I mean, my perspective is the Constitution of the United States grants the freedom for a woman to do with her body things that she's going to do with her body, having an abortion. That's not a statement of its moral legitimacy. It can be morally wrong, and you have the right to do it. Abortion rights and abortion's morality are not the same thing. And I think many of us have said, okay, in our country, there's a lot of things that you are allowed to do that are morally wrong to do.
Yes,
and our
that's
Constitution was put together in a way that allows that freedom where every moral decision is not made an illegal decision. So it's not that someone who's pro-choice would then be saying, I advocate abortions. So I wish some of us who want for less abortions to happen would speak more about stopping abortions and less, and not just less about the whole topic.
Let's say, for instance, in the Didache, it says, you shall not murder a child in utero or one that has been born. It doesn't say, and you should change the laws of the Roman Empire to reflect the Christian moral stance on this issue. And they're all it's the same thing. It's the same way you and I talk about gay marriage. The issue isn't so much gay marriage. The issue is that how the government and the church interact in issues of who gets to define what marriage is. Well, on the one hand, the church should define what marriage is as a sacred covenantal relationship, or even in the case of the Roman Catholic Church, a sacrament. Yeah. An event that bestows grace upon the recipients. Okay?
Sure.
But whether that's a legally binding contract and those people can sign wills together and visit each other in the hospital and share health care benefits, that's a completely different question.
One ought not be greedy, and one ought to be hospitable. But we don't require people to purchase a house under the auspices of being hospitable, right? We didn't conflate hospitality, which is an important human and religious virtue, with home ownership when you sign a legal contract to own a piece of property.
Yeah, but I agree.
Maddening.
But what the pro-lifers will say is, but this is different. This rises to a different level because this is about murder. So it rises to a different level than greediness or...
Yes. Right, but one could argue you have the legal right to do something immoral. What we ought to be advocating for is that people stop doing things that we think are bad for them and others.
Of course.
And if the law is not an appropriate way to stop that, and sometimes it is, then we should argue for it otherwise. I get what they're saying, that they're saying a society is not benefited by not making illegal the most heinous act. And I understand that argument, that if a society says that the innocent are being victimized, society should speak out against that.
Right.
Well, society could speak out against that, but the Constitution does not allow for that because of the complexities of where a child is created inside of another human being. It's a complexity that the Constitution cannot answer. Stop trying to answer it with constitutional arguments. would be my point.
Well, yeah.
And argue it on a whole other variety of issues. John White.
You got 2 minutes. Bring it.
Bring it.
But there is a very implicit privacy clause and statement in the Constitution of the United States, and I think that's another way of looking at this. A lot of people do is the whole privacy angle, because I think the Fourth Amendment, I think the quartering soldiers, there's a clear and present privacy argument. So I think that there is, to an extent, should you want to, I don't think it's the strongest argument for pro-choice, but I think that there is a privacy angle if you want to bring the Constitution into it.
No, I would agree. That's what I mean by the Constitution does not deal with the issue of the privacy of the unborn child.
90 seconds.
It deals with the privacy.
There's privacy of the mother that we're talking about. The privacy, you have to have this medical thing done to.
That's what I'm saying. Is the Constitution does not argue for. I'm sorry, I misspoke. The privacy of the mother in relationship to the protection of the child. It doesn't parse out those two issues.
Right.
So it's going to be argued then not on constitutional grounds because it's unclear with this complexity. It's going to have to be argued on another ground.
I think it's as unclear as the First Amendment's unclear, but it's served its purpose well for 250 years.
But the first
60 seconds.
I agree, but the First Amendment does not tell someone what morally appropriate speech is. True. It only goes so far to say you have the right to say it.
Right.
Then me as a person and a pastor would say that speech is rude. That speech is obnoxious. That speech is hurtful. You shouldn't do it, but you have the right to do it.
Yes.
So they're two different arguments. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
The slanderers and the liars and the gossips and the bearers of false witness are allowed to say whatever they want by the Constitution, but it's morally wrong and they should stop it. Those are different arguments, and that's what I think comes into play on this one. But it's complex and thorny, no doubt about it. Well, this is the question, a Blog Talk Radio conversation about religion, home repair, health care, or health issues, parenting, and the news of the day.
Oils.
Welcome back to the question. We'll be back next Tuesday.
Oils.
Over and out.